As we all know, the NBA has been around for what feels like an eternity. 76 great years. And with 76 great years of NBA basketball comes 76 great drafts. And there's been tons of highly speculated names come out of each NBA draft every single year. And you've had names like LeBron, Tim Duncan, and Shaq, who have all been drafted at the number one spot overall over all these years. And that's going to kind of segue into what we're going to talk about today. And that is ranking the first overall pick for the last 10 years. We're going to rank them from worst to best, and we're going to see a little bit more about each of their careers and see what I think about them. At number 10, we have none other than Anthony Bennett. His last full NBA season, which was only 23 games played, and he only started one of them, was with the Brooklyn Nets in 2016-2017 season, where he averaged 5 points, 0.1 blocks, 0.2 steals, a half an assist, 3.4 rebounds on what seemed to be pretty awful efficiency. Now, this is a guy who, coming out of college, was a highly recruited guy. Everyone thought he was going to be great. He was going to be the next big thing. And as we all see, Anthony Bennett now has become the biggest, if not one of the biggest, draft bust of all time. He has last been seen playing in the IBSL League over in Hapoel Jerusalem, which was 21 and 22 season. I believe he most recently signed with a team in Taiwan in one of their leagues, but has yet to play for them. At number 9, and it really pains me to put him here, is Markelle Fultz. Markelle Fultz has been a guy who, coming out of Washington, he just, everyone expected him to be a James Harden-like player, someone who can play on ball, off ball, dribble great, and honestly really just be that guy, right? That next James Harden, that's what people would compare him to. And he's been anything but that. In his first 2 years, he played a total of 33 games. Then he finally had a relatively healthy season in 2019-2020 when he got traded from the Philadelphia 76ers to the Orlando Magic, where he played 72 games. He averaged 12 points and 5 assists, 3 rebounds, which seemed pretty promising. It seemed like, finally he's going to make a turn in his career. He's going to finally be able to play a full season. Well, unfortunately, the next year, he suffered another injury in which he only played in the 2020-2021 season 8 games and continued that on the 2021-2022 season where he played 18 games. And this is the last season we've seen him for where he has been hurt, and he had averaged 10 points, 5.5 assists, 2.7 rebounds. And the efficiency, while not great, wasn't too bad. His field goal percentage was 47%, free throw 80%, a little bit above 80%. While his three-point shooting wasn't quite there, I think that's due to the injuries and not getting into a rhythm. So I'm praying for Markelle Fultz to have a healthier career and continue moving forward. I don't want to see him continue to be injured, and I want to see him prosper and continue his career. Now this is where the list gets a little shaky. At number 8, I have Cade Cunningham. Now I know, some of the people in front of him you probably don't want to put in front of him, but just based off their last season and how they're playing right now, as of right now, not projecting, this is where I have him. Cade Cunningham, one of the most exciting rookies coming out of the draft class last year. He put up 17.5 points, 5.5 assists, 5.5 rebounds on pretty okay shooting splits. Again, he kind of started off the year pretty rough, and kind of that second later part of the year, he actually brought it together, and he looked really good out there. And I think he is one of the few players in this draft class who has a really promising career ahead of him, and I can't wait to see how he's going to take this next step next year. And I think, honestly, Detroit is a team you want to look out for next year to make a little bit of a run. They have a ton of young guys, but they have a lot of young guys with tenacity, and I think they have what it takes to actually win a good amount of games next year. And that's just where I have him. I have him at number 8. And at number 7, coming out of the 2018 NBA draft class, DeAndre Ayton. Someone who's been pretty consistently good the last few years. He's been in the league for 4 years. Came off a season with 17.5 points, just shy of a 1.5 assists and 10 rebounds per game on honestly pretty good efficiency, shooting 36%, almost 37% from three, 63.5% from field goal percentage, and 75% from free throw. And honestly, those are pretty good stats on a really good team, and I think he's a very promising young player. Now, if I had to build a team, would I pick him over Cade Cunningham? Of course not. But that doesn't mean, and that doesn't take away from how good of a player he is. And I have really high hopes for him moving forward, and he got his bag this year, and that's why I have him at number 7. I know, I already said it. This is where it gets hard. And for the next pick, at number 6, we have Anthony Edwards. Second-year player in Minnesota, drafted in the 2020 year NBA draft. Just came off a season where he put up 21 points, 4 assists, almost 5 rebounds, on honestly really good shooting splits. He's a promising young guy, came out of Georgia, highly recruited, highly scouted, and he was deserving of that number 1 draft pick. And honestly, I think he has what it takes to make that next step and be an all-star next year. But as of right now, I don't think I can put him a little bit higher than what he is. I love watching Anthony Edwards. He's explosive, electrifying, and I love watching his game, but I can't put him above the rest of the guys. And at number 5, probably the most controversial pick here, I have Andrew Wiggins. He came off of a really good season on a really successful team, earning him a pick on the All-Star team as basically a first pick. He's an All-Star starter, right? And that says a lot, and maybe that's due to his team's success, but I mean, he also shot almost 40% from 3, 47% field goal percentage. His free throw could be a little bit better at 63.5, but he averaged 17 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 2 assists, 1 steal. Honestly, he was one of the better two-way guys in the league, and I think that says a lot about him. I think he's someone who he has shown before that he can put up numbers and he can score that 22, 23 points a night, but he played his role so phenomenally, and I think he's just one of those guys who's always going to give you a decent amount of points, about 17 or more, and he's going to play his heart out. He's going to play on both sides of the ball, and that's why I have him here at number 5 and why it's controversial. I think he was deserving of the money he just got. He got a big contract extension, and I'm excited to see how he plays out the rest of his career. At number 4, and still a kind of controversial pick, Ben Simmons. I think when he's healthy, he is deserving of a spot. Could even be deserving of the number 3 spot above the rest of the guys. I won't say just yet, but I'm sure you can kind of guess who's in front of him. He's just someone who's going to play both sides of the ball great. He's a great passer, one of the best passers in the league, one of the best defenders in the league. He's one of the few players who can guard the 1 through 5 pretty easily and also still give you about 15, 16 points a night. I mean, there's not much more you can say about him. I'm hoping he gets well. I know he has his issues with his mental health, but I think we're finally going to see a good, healthy season next year with the Nets, and I think he's going to prosper and do great things over there. And that's why I have him at number 4. At number 3, we have none other than Zion Williamson. Now, while we haven't seen him play since the 2020-2021 season, where he put up 27 points, 3.7 assists, 7.5 rebounds on pretty good shooting splits, shooting 61% from field goal percentage, almost 30% from 3, and 70% from free throw. As a guy who plays mostly in the paint at 6'6", those are great numbers. And honestly, I'm excited to see him this year. Everyone's making fun of his weight. I was saying, yeah, this guy's heavy, and yes, he gained some weight, but dude, he's an athlete, and he's a hell of an athlete, and as long as he can stay healthy and maintain his body in good shape, he's set for an exciting and long career. And guess what? As we all seen, he came back after the offseason looking in probably the best shape of his life. He looked a lot better than he did when he came into the NBA, and I'm just excited for us to see, and that earns him a number 3 spot on this list. At number 2, Karl Anthony Towns. Now, I'm going to admit to you, I was a guy who was not on the cat train. I liked him. I knew he was a good player. I didn't deny that. I will never deny that he was a good player. And I know he's probably the best three-point shooter, not one of the best three-point shooters at the center position of all time. But I just don't love how he plays. He plays more offensive-minded than defensive-minded. And that's something that I don't necessarily love in my center now. Jokic is kind of an exception. But Jokic does a little bit more with spreading the floor, passing the ball a lot better. And honestly, there's a lot of times where I've watched Jokic make that play at the end of the game where he gets a game-saving block. And I don't see that a lot in Cat, right? And I don't see a lot of heart in Cat. But I think last year he kind of proved us wrong, and he put up 24.5 points, great shooting, almost 10 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He showed he could play and make okay. And now that his team has some success, there's not a lot of bad things I can say about Cat. I'm still not in love with him, but I can't take away from how good of a player he is. And that's why he earns his number 2 spot on my list. And at the number 1 spot, I'm sure all of you have guessed, Anthony Davis. When completely healthy, and now that is kind of hard to ask of Anthony Davis. I think he's a guy who the most games he's played in his season is 75, which isn't a bad number, but all the other ones have been below 70. He's a guy who is a top 10 player in the league, and that's hands down. He can be the best defender on the court every single night, and he can also be the best offensive player on the court every single night, even playing alongside LeBron James. And I think that says a lot, and he's one of the few guys on this list who actually has an NBA championship. I think the other one being Andrew Wiggins, right, as of this year. I think AD is that guy. I think AD is the best player on this list. He is the best player out of the last 10 years draft pack, excluding this year. He's the best player. I think he's someone who can actually make an argument for a top 10 player every single year when he's healthy. And yeah, that does it today, guys, for my list. As always, leave a comment down below what you guys think, what your list looks like. I'd love to hear who you guys have where. I know there might be some controversy in the middle, but as always, I appreciate you guys for taking the time to watch today's video, and you guys take care. Later.